Okay, well, to my absolute surprise, you guys really liked that last video of mine, so I'm gonna do another one. Just kind of give you guys a rundown of some things and have some game footage and do a little talking. But this one's gonna be a little different yet because I'm actually gonna show some things. But in the same vein as that last video we did, which was kind of identifying the problem. So what's wrong with gaming industry? The modern AAA gaming industry. This one's more gonna be what can we do about it, or what you can do about it. And see where we go from here. And I think I've got more ideas cooking in my brain, and I'm certainly working on some stuff that might help. But that's way down the road. So this is kind of the first video in that kind of vein, and I'm sure I'm going to have others. But this is just kind of getting you started and hopefully getting some good games for you to play and influencing the industry in such a way that maybe down the road we have more good games to play. So that's the ultimate goal here, is to get the quality back up to where it was, to get the passion back in the games industry. And the most important thing in my mind that you can do to influence the gaming industry is voting with your dollar. If you don't buy a title and millions of other people don't buy a title, they're going to notice, and they have noticed. And that has gone, that sent shockwaves through the industry, and they're starting to take notice of that. Even though they don't seem to be responding to it, they certainly notice it, because you've noticed a lot of studio closures lately. You've noticed a lot of these games that have come out have basically forced the publishers or the owners to sell those studios, or to basically scrap them from parts. So it's definitely having an impact. It's just not affecting anything just yet, and it could take some time before that happens. But ultimately, it's either going to do one of two things. Either these studios and these publishers are going to stand up and take notice and change things, or they're going to go out of business because they're not getting any money from their customer base. And eventually the DEI money is going to run out, and that's starting to happen sooner rather than later. So yeah, see, I just fell off the I just fell off the side of that. Don't you love it? It's been a long time since I've played Facing Worlds on UT99, and I'm just not used to where everything is, apparently. So there you go. Anyway, enough of a distraction there. So voting with your dollar is the most important thing, but how do you do that? How do you know what games to buy? How do you know what's good and what's not good? And that's kind of where we're going to get into a little show and tell here, and show you some things. So the first thing is going to be Steam. Clearly, Steam reviews make a big difference, and we can actually see that. Here's Pal World right here. I tend to do a fairly rudimentary filter up here. So I always do over 10 hours, and I do Steam purchasers, and that gives you an idea of, overwhelmingly positive. So anybody that's played at least 10 hours and is verified to have bought this game on Steam, 96% of them gave this a positive review. You can actually see the graph over time if you expand that. So that's just up there, and hide and show graph. And you can see, it's been very positive consistently, and has been from effectively the beginning. But then you can go in and see details. You can just read through the reviews if you wanted to. So early access review, very fun gameplay loop. It's like if Ark and Pokemon had a baby, and that baby really liked MMORPGs and survival games. Devs are on point with bug fixes and patches, and the content is worth coming back to every patch. Multiplayer feels good. You can do everything solo or with your friends, and server settings are very customizable. The graphics are cartoony with a bit of anime in the best way, and so on and so forth. And you can just keep going through here, and sometimes the reviews are, posting ASCII capybaras, apparently. So, yeah, it's kind of freeform, and there's the negative one here. Honestly, a super fun game, but it has consistently lost my save data, and that has successfully ruined my experience with this title. So there's a bad experience, and you can see those too, and you can kind of weigh the goods and the bads, and get an idea of what the situation is with that game. Obviously, I mean, we kind of all know probably Pal World by now, but that's just kind of an example of how this all works. The next thing in Steam land, I guess, would be with SteamDB. So that would be, well, let's see. Let's go over here. So there's SteamDB. And let's just type in Palworld. So Palworld's been out for a while. Obviously, there's less people playing it now than there was in the beginning. So you can actually look at a lot of those details on SteamDB. and that's steamdb.info, not steamdb.com. But you can see the price history, so that's a good thing. See if the price has gone down over time. You can look at the player charts, and this is from 1 week, but if you go out 3 months, so you can see that player counts picked up just in June going into July. And you can see that bump compared to like the beginning is quite a bit different. It actually is a fairly slow decline for what is essentially a single player game, really. It does have the multiplayer mechanics and everything, but I think most people played this single player by and large, at least as far as I can tell. So yeah, that's not a bad decline. And honestly, with a single player game, it doesn't really matter as much. It does matter if your friends have it and they're not playing it anymore. But you just ask them. Hey, you have Plow World? You still play it? What's it like? And that's another thing you can do. Just ask your friends. But obviously, that entails a game that's already been out for a while or what have you, and doesn't help you in the situation of new games or upcoming games coming out soon. Which is kind of the next thing that I'd like to talk about. Which is look on social media. Look at what people are saying about it before it's released, and what the news is that's coming out on it. And that also leads me to the other thing, which is legacy gaming media. So go to IGN and see what they say. Go to Kotaku if you really want. And honestly, I mean, the best thing to do would be if you wanted to read an article. And this is mean, but you copy the link, archive.is. You just paste it in there, and now you've archived it. Archived 23 hours ago. You can save it again, or you can just go ahead and read it. And now there's no ads. They don't get any money for your read. They don't get any ad revenue. So you can actually read through this Dead Rising review and see what they say about it. And a lot of times you'll see like, the stereotypical, oh, this game has, a person of color as the main character, and we think it's very progressive and wonderful, and that's why we really like this game, and use that against them. Use it against these studios that want to, kowtow to these identity politics and not make good games. Because if it's going to be, championed for being progressive, it's not being championed for being a good game. And consequently, if it's being derived for being, kind of standard game, like not enough people of color, then chances are it's potentially not a bad game. I mean, that's the pattern, isn't it? It's if they inject the identity politics, I mean, my theory is the more time and effort they put towards identity politics, the more they push their political agendas, the less time and energy and resources are being spent on making a good game. Because they've devoted all that resource to pushing a narrative, and that makes gameplay, the actual game itself, take a back seat to these political agendas. So that's why you're seeing these games lose in quality when they get woke, as it were. So, I mean, that's my theory, and use that to your advantage. Use that against, use the legacy gaming media against the studios that are going to push these narratives and not make quality games. It's not a perfect system by any stretch of the imagination. There have been plenty of woke games that were good. Not in recent memory, really. But yeah, I mean, you can use that as a general indicator. But obviously, the best thing to do would be to not buy it on launch and see what the reviews come through on Steam at. See what people are talking about it on social media. See what the news is. And, make a decision for yourself. That's the best way to determine whether a game is worth playing or not, is to wait, is honestly, don't buy it day one. Don't buy the pre-release. Don't buy these $120 ultimate editions with 3 days of early access or what have you, because, 9 times out of 10 with AAA studios, it seems like that early access is more buggy than the already buggy going to be launch game. B, not worth your time because the game quality is terrible and the game loops are not fun. And C, it's pushing that political agenda and therefore making the game less enjoyable in the first place. I mean, depending on your politics, I guess. So that's kind of my strategy right now with how do you know which games are good and which games are not? And voting with your dollar, and that is the most important thing. And like I said, I am working on something to help. But it's a long time coming. And oh yeah, and obviously, I mean, forgot about this one. Steam curators. If you have curators on Steam that you trust, see what they're saying about the game. Look at SBI Detected. Look at some of the websites like DEI Detected. DEI detected.com, I think it is. Yeah, so see if it's on this list. See if it's got, identity politics being injected through, DEI policies, and see what it says there. And this is, again, it's not a perfect system. This is just effectively one guy's opinion on it. And I mean, I for the most part, I trust Cabrutus, but he can be wrong, and it can be an incorrect addition to this list, or he can leave stuff out. And more likely, he's going to be leaving stuff out because there are a lot of games, and sometimes one slips by the radar. So it's not perfect, but it's something. So, I mean, I guess those are the things that I would be using as far as tools are concerned. And then the second most important thing is, without buying these AAA games, because obviously there's going to be quite a missing chunk of gaming media that's, you're not interested in buying at that point. How do you find games that are fun, that are enjoyable to play? And we're going to go right back to Steam, and we're going to see how we can do that. And obviously, shop the sales. Steam tries to figure out what kind of games you would enjoy playing and puts them up on the main page here. You can find things like in sales and use those tactics of looking at the reviews and looking at the player counts and what have you to see if those games are worth playing. I mean, it works just as good on a AAA game as it does on an indie or a AA. It's the same mechanics. It's just lesser numbers. AAA tends to get a lot more players. So if you adjust for that scale change, then you'll be able to find fun games in that respect. So for example, let's see. What is this? I have no idea what this is. Draw and guess. Very positive. And obviously, I mean, this is my business account, so I don't have any games on this, so it doesn't even know what to recommend to me. But yeah, only if you got friends, lol. Cutest draw and guess game I've ever tested so far. Very fun game to play with friends. So it's a friend-based, it's a multiplayer experience by and large. I totally crashed a game of Chinese players. There were no English lobbies, and they were nice enough to wait until the game was over before they kicked me. How sweet. Awful connection issues. Also wants money for something that Gardic Phone offers for free, and with more variety and without connection issues. Just because Draw and Guess looks better, it isn't better. Sometimes toxic community. So you've got good and bad in here. And like I said, make sure to give that over 10 hours and verified Steam purchases, and that gives you a better idea. The old version of the game was very good, but the new version is absolutely terrible. So there's a negative review right there. I guess the old one was better. Very good game. Deviating from the original meaning is our goal. Good game, but nobody plays with me. Hope have solo mode, please, please, please. Less boring when I play with friends, but now I don't have any. That's too bad. Somebody friend this girl. I'm gonna friend this girl on my personal. I'm not gonna do with a business. Yeah. So 11 out of 10 multiplayer, very fun game, but people are naughty, so on and so forth. So there you go. A bunch of reviews, and you can make a decision about it and read the tags. Are the tags something you're interested in? Read the description. You gotta do the digging, and that's pretty much the only way to find fun games to play. Watch the video. I mean, there's ways of figuring out if a game's worth playing. And then obviously the other thing you can do is go through your discovery queue. And the more discovery queues you do, the more Steam is going to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Add things to your wish list, and those are important things. They're important things for you, and they're important things to the developers, especially indie developers. Wish lists are king. They are the most important thing going, because it's people that have an interest in your game, and it tells you that you're on the right track. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is obviously a very popular game chained together. So you can kind of go through all the info here and add it to your wish list, follow it or ignore it. Next in queue, and you just go through your queue and keep building those things up, and eventually you're going to get to a point where Steam knows what kind of games you like, and it'll start making recommendations to you. And that honestly is the best way to go forward with this, because it allows you to find, good indie games to play. It allows you to find those games that aren't, aren't out there in common parlance in social media and not in the public consciousness. But if you find a good one and you play it and you tell your friends and they tell their friends and so on and so forth, eventually maybe it will become in common parlance. And that's how a lot of these games kind of blew up, is that, a YouTuber or a streamer got a hold of one of these random games and enjoyed it and streamed it, and everybody that watched it enjoyed it and got it. And that's, it just kind of blew up from there. And that's pretty much the story of Pal World to a certain degree, obviously right here. And yeah, it's more important than you realize. And it's how you as the gaming community can build the next generation of AAA studios, because you've got these indies and these AA's making all these games, thousands and thousands every week. And, it's more games than we can ever cover. It's more games than we can ever process on our own. But as a community, as a community of gamers, if we get more people involved in these kind of things and kind of discovering and digging into the Steam store and digging into other stores, GOG and Epic too, digging into Xbox and PlayStation and the Nintendo store, and finding these good titles, that's how you make small studios big studios. That's how you take indie to AA and AA to AAA. And that's how you replace the ones that you're not a fan of anymore, the ones that are trashing all your favorite games, by making them more about politics than the original stories and the original gameplay mechanics. That's how you replace those guys. You find new studios that can do new things, that are going to do the things that you want to do, and make the games that you want to play. So I don't know. It's kind of a half rant and half showing you how to do some things that you probably already know how to do anyway, but that's what I got. And, hopefully this will help, and hopefully some of my side projects will help too. I'm really, I'm trying to do some things more related to game discovery, right now than game development. And then I'll get back into the game dev after that. But I think this is more important, honestly. And, that's why I'm focused on it. So that's what I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. And, if you like it, give it a like and sub to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.